Okay, for today, we're going to be reviewing transformations. So I'm going to be working questions 100 to 107. Now, when I talk, I'm going to say according to our rules. When I say that, I mean question 51 from our notes. So reminder, well, what does 51 look like? That's it. I gave you something about translation, dilation, reflection, and rotation, right? Special cases, reflection and rotation, you guys can see what happens to the X and the Y. Special cases. Now, translation and dilation, the values, the X and the Y, the numbers are going to totally switch. All right, so let's take a look. Question 100. It says, graph the image of the figure using the transformation given, but we can use any point, right? If I gave you guys, if I said, give me the coordinates of F, I'm going to say right now, F, the points are 1, 5. And according to our notes, rotation 180. So I'm going to base on my notes, rotation 180. It says X, Y become negative X, negative Y. Like I said, I'm getting this from my notes. X, Y become negative X, negative Y. Now, what does that mean? I'm just going to switch the signs. So if I want to know F prime, my coordinates are negative 1, negative 5. All right, what if I asked you to follow point G? Coordinates of G are 3, 1. So G prime will be negative 3, negative 1. All I'm doing is I'm switching the signs. All right, I could do H prime. I could ask you for E prime, any of those. But actually, let me do E prime. Let me follow E. Interesting part on E. Coordinates are 0, 3. I got to switch the sign. So E prime will be 0, negative 3. There's no such thing as a negative 0. All right, let's take a look at question number 101. I'm going to do translation. 1 unit to the left and 2 units up. I can literally draw these points. 1 to the left, 2 up. I can literally come over it and use my graph here. And then get the coordinates of the point needed. Or another way I can do this, let's say I ask you guys for the point L. The coordinates of point L right now are 3, 0. Mathematically speaking, subtract 1 from X and add 2 to Y. So L prime will be 2, 2. What if I ask you guys for point K? Originally, K is 5, negative 2. But remember, I have to subtract 1 from X and add 2 to Y. So my K prime will be 4, 0. So for translation, use the image or use the operations. X minus 1, Y plus 2. Now let's take a look at question 102. Dilation. I have to multiply everything by the scale factor. So let's say I asked you guys for H prime. So we're going to follow point H. To begin with, H is negative 2, 2. Now H prime, because I'm asking for H prime, multiply each number by 2.5. So it's going to give me negative 5, 5. Let's take a look at another point. What if I ask you for G? So to begin with, G is 0, 1. G prime, because I'm going to multiply each number by 2.5, will give me 0, 2.5. Right? I multiply each number by 2.5. I could ask you guys for I or F. And if I say graph the image, well, you got to do them all. You got to graph them all. Now let's take a look at 103. According to my rules, I'm looking at my notes. Reflection across the x-axis. That one says xy becomes x negative y. Okay, what does that mean? I'm just going to switch the sign on the y. So if I asked you to follow point T, right, to begin with, T is 2, 5. So if we want to do T prime, my answer will be 2, negative 5. Right? Just change the sign on the y value. What if I ask you to follow U? Coordinates of U are negative 1, 5. So U prime will become negative 1, negative 5. Right? Just change the sign on the y value. I could do S, I could do V. Actually, let me take a look at S. The coordinates of S are 1, 0. Coordinates of S prime will be 1, 0. I'm supposed to change the value of the y, but there's no such thing as a negative 0. So I'm just going to leave it up 0. Now, 104. Right, from 104 to 107, I gave you the coordinates already. So we can graph this, and I'm going to move 1 to the left, 3 up, or mathematically speaking, subtract 1 from the x and add 3 to y. So let's say I wanted L prime. I gave you the values of L. My values by L prime will be 0, 0. Notice I subtracted 1 from x and I added 3 to y. What if I ask you for K prime? My coordinates will be 0, 2. Again, I subtracted 1 from x and I added 3 to y. And if I ask you for J prime, my values will be 2, 1. Looking at 105. It says dilation of 5 over 2. First of all, let me change my fraction as a decimal. 5 divided by 2 is 2.5. I'm going to look at this as a decimal. So for dilation, let me multiply everything, the x and the y value, everything by 2.5. So if I wanted to know the h prime, my values will be negative 5, 0. I multiplied each number by 2.5. If I wanted to know my I prime, my values will be 0, 2.5. If I wanted to know my J prime, my values would be 5 and negative 2.5. Again, I multiplied each number by 2.5. Let's take a look at 106. Rotation of 180 degrees about the origin. I'm going to use our notes. Question 51. It says xy becomes negative x negative y. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to switch the signs on the x and the y. If it's positive, make it negative. If it's negative, make it positive. So the coordinates of a prime, if I wanted to know a prime, it will be negative 2, positive 2. If I want to know values of b prime, it will be negative 2, positive 1. And the coordinates of c prime will be negative 5, positive 3. Lastly, question 107, reflection across the x-axis. Okay, so let me go back to my notes. Question number 51. Reflection across the x-axis is as xy becomes x negative y. All right, so what that means is I'm just going to switch the sign on the y. So k prime will be 2, 2. Right, I changed from negative 2 to positive 2. L prime will be 4, 0. There's no such thing as a negative 0. And M prime will be 4, 4. Let me emphasize my Y values. I was switching the signs on each, but there is no such thing as a -0. Okay. If you have any questions, let me know.